All right, I'm going to pick it up from 2024 concludes. Here we go. Take two. 2024. Let's try it again. 2024 concludes my third year of guiding people through their ketamine experiences. And guys, I feel so lucky and so grateful to bear witness to so many amazing transformations. I know that a lot of you listening to the podcast are curious about the healing potential of ketamine, which is why today I want to share with you three transformations that I have witnessed and also guided this year, 2024, in my one-on-one ketamine coaching practice. Before we dive into these incredible stories, I also want to remind you about my subliminal workshop that is going to be coming up faster than you think on January 29th. If you are curious about aligning your goals for 2025 with your subconscious mind, this is such the perfect workshop to start. It is a great way to set your subconscious up for success. Reminder that the price of the workshop goes up on January 1st, so be sure to sign up before January 1st so you can lock in the 2024 price. All of those details are in the show note. There's also an additional discount code in the show notes so you can get an even better price. All right, let's get into today's episode. I am sharing with you three amazing practical examples from clients who have experienced really profound benefits with ketamine therapy just this year. These stories are really unique. I selected three that showcase kind of a blend of what is possible here, and they showcase the power of ketamine when it is used in a supportive, intentional, and integrated way with guidance. And, just a quick note, in case you're wondering, I have changed all the names in today's episode to protect privacy. And let's dive in. Okay, transformation number one, getting honest, facing the truth about the past. So the first transformation I want to highlight today is the one about getting honest. And this is a big one, a lot bigger than it might seem at face value. Often the first step in any transformation is just allowing yourself to be honest about where you have been, where you are, and where you need to heal. I really think of this as setting the GPS, right? If setting the intention is the destination, I've talked about that in previous episodes. Go ahead and go back and listen to how to prepare for ketamine. If you're curious about setting the intention, that is your destination, right? The intention is your destination, and getting honest is the process of setting your current location, right? You can't really chart that route without both of those things. And a lot of the time, gosh, so many of us carry around deep emotional baggage that we haven't fully addressed. And it can be hard to even admit all that you've been through. I've really seen this process with clients time and time again. I've seen so many clients have trouble with this part, the part of getting honest. And I've also gotten to witness the high level of relief when the honesty gets on board. Like, whew, wow, we have a starting point now, and this is where ketamine therapy paired with integration works becomes such a powerful tool. Like, whoa. So I want to talk about, let me talk about someone. I have a story highlighted here to kind of get into this point. So I'm talking about Sandra, again, not her real name. Maybe it wasn't even a she. Maybe it was someone else. I don't know. I do. But anyways, Sandra, let's call her Sandra. She had been working with ketamine for about a month when she came to me for integration work. She was doing the ketamine thing. And when we first started working together, Sandra was holding on to a lot of emotional resistance, especially when it came to her childhood. Sandra had a lot of deep rooted pain from growing up in an environment that was not supportive. And she didn't really fully realize until we got into the exercises how much that unprocessed pain had shaped her personality, her ego, her adult life, like her entire existence. And it was through our work together that, Sandra was able to get honest about the fact that her child her childhood was not just difficult, it was unsupportive in the ways um, that she needed. It wasn't that it was totally unsupportive, but in the ways that she needed, it was unsupportive, and she wasn't able to fully recognize that until we started working together. I talk about this a lot in one-on-one work. There's this idea, I personally call it the suck it up generation. So many of us, especially those of us born in the 80s, grew up in a time where emotions were seen as something to be managed, ignored. They're an obstacle, get them out of the way. They are the thing to overcome to get to the goal. And this was a really pervasive belief that, oh, you feel this way, well, suck it up. Oh, you don't feel good, suck it up. Oh, you don't want to, suck it up. Like, whatever you need to do, suck it up and get on with life. And that's like no matter what you're feeling. Again, this is generationally specific, maybe not. This resonates with a lot of people. I've spoken about this a lot in my one-on-one client work. And yeah, it's this idea of like feelings. Oh God, I don't need those. Those are just like so inconvenient. And this led to, gosh, a lot of people suppressing your emotions, not just talking about trauma, but also ignoring like the mental health struggles that are really actually real and affecting your existence. And this is the place where Sandra and I met. She was no different. She had spent decades checking the boxes and pleasing everyone around her, but never really taking the time to check in with herself. So this led to a lot of professional accolades. Sandra is highly, highly, highly successful. It led to her checking a lot of boxes in her life. And it also, unfortunately, led to her feeling empty and unable to hold it together any longer. Our work together really helped Sandra see how those old people pleasing habits, from trying to gain approval to constantly self sacrificing, they were not just unsustainable, they were actually keeping her disconnected from her own identity. They were like the shell built around what was actually on the inside, the truth, her authenticity, her real self. And Sandra had spent so much time in her life trying to meet the needs of everyone around her that she lost herself in the process. And again, she was already working with ketamine, and so she used the ketamine to unlock the access to her subconscious mind. And it was really our work together that let her sort what she was finding in her subconscious in a way that let her get honest with herself about what she truly experienced growing up and how it impacted how she lived as an adult. And this is a good story. This is has a really, really amazing sort of trajectory. Sandra got honest about her past. She got honest about her relationships with herself. And, as she got honest about her past, as we were able to really sort through things through the lens of honesty, her relationship with ketamine changed. She started seeing results in ways that she hadn't before. And it wasn't just about the experience itself, it was about how she was integrating those insights and really facing the truths that had been holding her back. Uh, Honestly, this is rare, but because Sandra was already working with ketamine and because she was so receptive to the ideas and the reframes that I was bringing in with our integration work, it really only took one session when she noticed that one session of us together combined with the month of ketamine that she'd already been doing. Sandra noticed a decrease in her social anxiety. She was able to talk to people out in the world in a way that she couldn't previously. She had an increased connection with her family that was really, really beautiful to observe. And most rewarding was that she found a newfound optimism for the future. And that was really huge because we found each other when Sandra was in a really, really dire state. So Sandra's story really shows how powerful it can be to get honest with yourself about your past, especially, the stories that you've been telling yourself that just aren't helping you grow or heal because they're not true. Truly. So when you can get real about the things that hurt, the things that you've been carrying around but never fully processed, never look through the lens of honesty, that's when real transformation can really become possible, right? That is the GPS of where you are, and your intention is where you're going. So I want you to imagine, like, what if you could look at your past with a different, more honest perspective and move through the world with a clearer sense of self? This is not about shaming or blaming or resenting or regretting. It's just about getting real and getting honest. And it helps you get to a place where you can really, really approach deeper healing when you are connected with your true, authentic self. Good job, Sandra. So proud of you out there. All right, let's get into transformation number 2, and that is becoming your own ally. Oh, I love this one. It might be my favorite. It's about building a compassionate relationship with yourself. And gosh, this one is so near and dear to my heart. In my work with clients, this has been absolutely transformational. The concept of becoming your own ally and learning how to treat yourself like you treat your best friend. Wow, so often and so many of us get stuck in cycles of self-criticism, self-doubt, negative self-talk. For many of us, that inner dialogue is filled with judgment and blame and anger, mostly towards ourselves, and it's really heartbreaking. I see it a lot. I experienced it for most of my life, and it's something that hits a really tender chord within myself. But there is a possibility to shift into a new narrative. Like, there is the possibility that you could start supporting yourself instead of beating yourself up. And I want you to imagine, like, what would that be like? Like, what if you could imagine a moment in the past week when you got hard on yourself, where you're beating yourself up and just being really mean to yourself? What if in that moment you were your best friend, you were supporting yourself? And that's, something that ketamine facilitates, but it's really through the integration work, through the facilitation of a guide that can help you get there, that it really becomes possible. And yeah, let's talk about my friend Peter. Peter, wow. Oh, what a story Peter is. Peter came to me with a long history of depression, anxiety, and bipolar disorder. I work with these disorders, with people with these diagnoses a lot. And Peter had been struggling with these issues for about 12 to 15 years, but had not been able to pinpoint the exact source. And to be honest, it took us a little while, because for a long time, Peter had been caught in a victim mindset, believing that his past and his struggles were just something that he had to endure, because he hadn't found that origin story. He felt like, oh, this is just how I am. This is something that I have to endure, and that no one could really understand what he was going through. And Peter developed a sense of disconnection from himself. This is really common. This is something that I see a lot in this line of work. He saw himself as someone who was constantly at odds with his own emotions. It created a lot of self-judgment. It created a lot of frustration. It made it really hard to navigate the world. Peter was in high levels of survival mode. When Peter came to work with me, he was already several months into his ketamine journey, which was really interesting to observe. He was starting to feel some relief from his symptoms, but because he had been working with ketamine for so long and hadn't had proper guidance into integration, the benefits that he was experiencing from ketamine in the beginning started to stall. And this was really alarming. And this is how we started to work with each other, because he was afraid that if the ketamine stopped working, like, what was going to happen. So he did have some relief from his symptoms, but there was something that was still missing. Through our work together, Peter learned how to be compassionate towards himself, again, through the last bit about getting honest about his past, and also getting honest about his, self-bullying, and how that was really keeping him from embracing true healing. that's when things really started to shift. Our work together focused on helping Peter shift from a mindset of self-blame to self-compassion. This was a big one. This was not instantaneous by any stretch of the imagination. This definitely took time. The inner critic, the inner bully was really, really loud. And this is something that I've dealt with in my hypnotherapy practice for years. So it's a process that I'm really familiar with, of that shift from self-blame to self-compassion. And so as we work through this shift, and then the ketamine therapy really, really started to kick back in, and it started to work its magic again. Through our sessions, Peter started uncovering a lot of long held beliefs that shaped the negative self view. He realized how much his anxiety and depression stemmed from early childhood experiences. He was able to get honest about those, and it was really rewarding and really magical to witness Peter come to the realization of how those experiences shaped his life, how they were still controlling his life in so many ways, in a way that was really, really sobering for him, of like, wow, I can't believe, this is controlling my whole existence. And this is how the deep transformational work really causes lasting change, because we got in there and we got to the root of that self-bullying in a way that led to lasting change. It's something that is really common that I take, from my hypnotherapy practice into the ketamine coaching that I do, which is this concept that once a light is shown on the root of the issue, it cannot remain the same. There's a light in the shadow and everything changes. It is that way. And I've seen it honestly for the past 6 years that I've been doing subconscious reprogramming with people. And that's what I saw with Peter's case too. I got to observe Peter, see his past through a different lens, through the lens of compassion. He realized that his struggles were not his fault. That was so huge. And that he had the right to be kind to himself moving forward. And that was really, really powerful. Peter got to realize that the voice in his head that had been criticizing him for years wasn't actually him. That voice that was criticizing him was this internalized voice of the past pain. And this revelation was game changing for him. And it was a huge turning point where Peter got to embrace himself not as someone broken, but someone really, really worthy of healing, of self love, and of living a life that he was really excited to live. Yeah. And also, just FYI, when this work shifted for him, Peter continued using ketamine, and that helped reinforce this new perspective, one where he got to be his own best friend. And instead of approaching every day from a place of fear, shame, self-judgment, and just like agony, like every day was so painful, I cannot stress that enough. Peter started to show up for himself with more understanding, with more patience. And again, I want to stress this shift did not happen every or overnight, but with each session, Peter grew more confident with his ability to navigate his emotions without being harsh, without being dismissive, again, towards himself. And this changed everything. As this relationship with himself changed, so did his relationship with others, right? With his colleagues, with his family, with just his entire experience in the world. And yeah, he got to approach his struggles from kindness rather than criticism. And I wish that to be possible for everyone. The freedom that comes with you treating yourself like you would treat a close friend, offering yourself compassion, support, and just like a lot of kindness when things get rough, instead of spiraling into self blame and judgment and just like bullying and meanness. Like, yeah, I want that for everybody. And for Peter, this transformation was huge. It was one of the most significant outcomes of our work together, how much lighter he got to feel through this shift. He got to notice that his self-doubt and his inner tension that, used to plague him, that kept him in bed for days and weeks at a time, it began to dissipate, and it was replaced by a growing sense of self-acceptance and even joy. Peter started trusting himself more, trusting his ability to make decisions, trusting his ability to keep himself safe, trusting his feelings, and trusting, most importantly, that he is worthy of happiness and peace. And y'all, so many of us struggle from negative self-talk, so I really want you to think about this. What if you can become your own biggest ally, someone who supports yourself unconditionally? No matter the struggle, no matter the setbacks, that is what is possible here. And that is something that I am so privileged that I got to witness in Peter's story and continue witness as this continues to shift. This emotional healing from becoming your own best friend, it really opens you up to new possibilities. This relationship with yourself, it is your foundation for every relationship if you're of your life in your life. If you can treat yourself with love, compassion, respect, kindness, you are going to bring more of that into your life when that is your standard. And if this feels so far away and you're wondering, how do I even start? Y'all, January 29th, Subliminal Workshop. It's not just full of resources on what the subconscious mind is and how psychedelics work with it. It is full of resources on how to speak directly to the subconscious mind. You'll get a subliminal recording. It'll help jumpstart this process in the easiest way possible. And I would love to see you in there. Let's get rid of that self-criticism. Let's get rid of that negative self-talk, and let's intentionally replace them with affirmations of self-worth, of self-compassion, and kindness. And yeah, that is on deck, because if you want to transform your life, you want to transform your subconscious mind. If you want to transform your subconscious mind, you got to speak the language of your subconscious mind. Otherwise, you really risk digging in deeper on old unwanted states of being. So check the show notes. That's all there. It's accessible, it's informative, it's so fun. Come join me there. And let's just give like a huge shout out to Peter for going and being the example of what is possible by going from so much self-deprecation to like immense self-love. And transformation number 3, becoming a better leader. Wow. This one is about healing emotional reactivity and up-leveling leadership. So for the third transformation story that I selected, I want to share this one that is really close to my heart, because it's about becoming a better leader. And I really believe we need a lot of really good leaders in the world right now. So a lot of times when we think about ketamine therapy, we think about it as something that's only for healing deep personal wounds, but that's not it. The truth is, ketamine therapy can have a profound impact on professional growth as well, and especially for those that are in high pressure leadership roles, it can be a real game changer. And that is what I saw firsthand with our friend Martha. Martha is a corporate executive at the C-suite level, and she came to me looking to just get some guidance on making the best use of ketamine. And that turned into a conversation about emotional blocks that she was facing in her role. Martha came to me. She was struggling with a lot of emotional reactivity, things like anger, frustration, difficulty trusting her team. That was an obstacle. And as a top executive, Martha was under a lot of pressure to lead with confidence, to make critical decisions, and to maintain her professional composure. But boy, oh boy, did she feel that her reactions to stress were like often disproportionate and not aligned with the type of leader she wanted to be. And that was rough. especially because Martha's team was noticing it too. The emotional distance that she felt was creating barriers in her relationships with her team, and she was frustrated with herself because, gosh, she just knew. She knew she had the potential to be a better, stronger, more balanced, and yeah, leader who led by example. Martha had been working with ketamine, and, you know, we really worked on the preparation piece to get into this part and really prepare her to gain insights, to get to the core of her reactivity, right? So that when that gate to the subconscious mind opened, she knew where she was going, right? If you think of it this way, when you open the gate to your subconscious mind, it's like walking into, like a large library. And it's like, okay, great. Where do I start looking? And that was what our preparation work focused on. So that she could start, she knew where to look, and she knew what to take out of what she was finding, and she knew how to integrate those insights that she was able to extract. So yeah, we got to dig in deep to the root cause of her anger and her reactivity. And lo and behold, surprising to none, we uncovered some childhood stuff. Ain't that the truth? I hope that you are seeing that ketamine is really the guide to whatever you want to go to. And that's why guidance, preparation, integration is so important. And, it was the skillful guidance that got Martha to make ketamine a game changer, right? It's guidance that takes ketamine from just another thing you tried to the thing that changes your life. So Martha and we uncovered that her emotional reactivity was tied to deep-seated experiences from her childhood. There were moments in her childhood that we uncovered where she felt unseen and unheard by her peers. That was really heartbreaking. She got to get honest about those experiences, and she got to become her own best friend through those experiences. All of these transformation stories that I'm talking about today really tie together. But anyways, the experiences that Martha uncovered, they led her to adopt a hypervigilant stance in her life. That's where all of these, unhinged anger, reactivity, mistrust patterns were coming from. Martha led a life where she constantly felt the need to protect herself because of these early childhood experiences. So as a result, she built up these emotional walls that were there to defend herself from feeling vulnerable. And over the years, that pattern carried into her professional life. She would become emotionally reactive, especially when she felt disrespected or unsupported, or when her authority was challenged. What Martha did not realize was that this emotional reactivity was driving a wedge between her and her team. She was not able to fully trust them, and because at a subconscious level, she was projecting her past wounds from her peers onto her team. So this disconnect was affecting her leadership style, her ability to delegate. Gosh, she was so overworked, and her sense of collaboration with her colleagues was basically non-existent. Martha was carrying around a baggage that did not belong in her role, and she didn't want it there. It really, really was time for her to clear that space out. And so it was, the ketamine therapy that she was undergoing, combined with our integration work, that allowed Martha to access and process these buried emotions in a safe, controlled setting. Tears were shed, laughter was laughed, like all the emotions came through. And, the ketamine provided her with the access to this deeply buried past. And our work helped us get in there and really rework those old wounds that were influencing her leadership behaviors. It was through our work together that we got to reframe her past and heal the emotional wounds that were triggering the reactivity, the mistrust, and all of the just behavior she didn't want. She worked through the feelings, and she started to feel a shift, a calmness that was not there before. She began to trust herself, her team, and the decision-making process that was way more aligned with her leadership vision. And one of the most profound moments came when Martha was able to let go of the need to control everything. That was huge for her. She had spent so much of her career feeling like she had to manage every outcome, like the weight of the world was on her shoulders, that she had to protect her authority, and she had become really rigid in her approach to leadership because of that. With ketamine and our work together, she was able to see that true leadership is not about control, but rather about trusting your team, empowering your team, and creating a culture of collaboration. And this realization completely shifted how she viewed her role as an executive, and it freed up so much space, y'all. Martha started exercising before work instead of being in the first one in the office. She started taking lunch away from her desk. Who does that? And she even started having these designated nights to spend with her significant other. And all these changes really, really dramatically improved the quality of her life. And honestly, I don't work with anyone on her team, but I'm guessing it probably improved the quality of their lives too, to work with someone who is trusting, collaborative, and pleasant. That's huge for everyone. The ripple effects of that go wide. And yeah, Martha and I wrapped up our work together, and she had leveled up her leadership skills in ways that she really did not imagine possible. She went from being emotionally reactive, from snapping at her team members or feeling frustrated when things didn't go according to plan, to being really emotionally intelligent. She was able to stay grounded in the face of challenges. Her team began to notice that shift, like I mentioned. They felt supported, they felt trusted, and honestly, the results in the company were really magical too. I wish I could share those. But yeah, she was no longer caught in that cycle of defensiveness and reactivity, but rather really began approaching situations with empathy, understanding, and the magic of that was really, really huge. All right, there you have it. The top three transformations that I had the hardest time choosing for this episode, but I wanted to choose three that felt really relatable from the client work that I've done just this year alone. Again, I'm guiding clients through ketamine therapy. They're doing ketamine in a controlled clinical setting, and then around their sessions, either the day before or the day after, depending on the schedule and depending on our schedules and also depending on our intentions. That's when we work together to prepare, to make sense of, to integrate. So yeah, those are the top three stories that I selected. So to give you hope, to give you some sense of what's possible. And I want you, to come away with these takeaways, that these transformations, they did not happen overnight or purely because of the ketamine. The ketamine absolutely helped unlock the subconscious mind and break through emotional barriers and offered a space for healing. But the real magic came from what was happening outside of the ketamine sessions. It came from getting to the root cause of the struggles, for having the gall, the bravery to go there. We talked about Sandra, who wasn't just struggling with anxiety or a lack of self-worth. She had spent her whole life basically people pleasing, checking boxes for everyone but herself. And when we got into it, when we dug into her childhood and explored how she was emotionally shaped and by that early childhood experience, she was able to find true healing. She found clarity. She found hope. She found so much um, understanding. Ketamine opened the door, but like I said, she had already been doing ketamine for about a month before we started working together. So it was really through our work together that allowed her to release those old patterns and really step into her power. We talked about Peter, who wasn't, start that last part over. We talked about Peter, who had been doing ketamine for many months before we started working together. The ketamine had started waning in efficacy, so that's when we started working together, and we were able to dig into a deeper understanding about the trauma that had fueled his depression, anxiety for about 15 years. And when we got to the core of that trauma and were able to actually work through it, that's when so many symptoms began to decrease, and he started gaining benefits from the ketamine again. And that was huge. That was really, really, really induced a lot of hope into Peter's life. And the third transformation story that we heard today was Martha. She was not just another angry corporate executive. She was someone who had unprocessed emotional wounds from her past. So human. That's what was fueling her reactivity, her trust issues. Once we uncovered and processed that old pain, her relationship with her team improved. Her emotional responses were much better. She was much balanced, between her work-life stuff, how she, delegated, and ketamine absolutely played a role, but it was really the skilled guidance into the past experiences that led to the ripple effects of really lasting change, to getting to the root cause rather than just the symptoms. So this is the power of guided transformation. Ketamine is not a magic pill, and it is not the only solution. But when it is used combined with compassionate guidance, with skilled guidance, when you're working with someone who knows how to get you to the root that is in the subconscious mind, gosh, it becomes so incredibly potent for lasting change. Honestly, y'all, getting to the root of the issue is where the real healing happens. And as we wrap up 2024, I really want you to encourage, and as we wrap up 2024, I want you to think about, the transformation that you're ready for in 2025. Maybe one of these stories resonated with you, whether you are healing deep wounds or breaking old patterns or just aligning with your true self. There's so many tools up there. There's so many paths up the mountain to feeling better, to having a positive experience in your life. And y'all, one of those tools, I got to say, it's my favorite one, is deep subconscious work. And that's what we're getting into in the Subliminal Workshop, January 29th. You're going to align your conscious and subconscious mind with your goals, and you're going to get an idea of how to speak directly to the subconscious mind, which is so important. It's honestly designed to be the perfect kickstart to your 2025, to lay the foundation for transformation in literally every area of your life. And please sign up by January 1st so that you can get a lower rate. All of those links and the discount code are in the show notes. And yeah, can't wait to see you there. It's going to be so fun. I'm a really fun person. So thank you so much for listening today. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who could use it, and, stay curious. Bye. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Ketamine Connections. I hope you found our discussion insightful and empowering. Remember that understanding the subconscious mind and how to make the most of ketamine therapy can truly transform someone's healing journey. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to share it with your friends and family and anyone who might benefit from this information. So few people considering ketamine therapy are fully educated about its potential and the impact that it has on the subconscious mind. Your share could be the key element to their transformation. Don't forget to subscribe to Ketamine Connections so that you never miss an episode. And if you have a moment, I absolutely adore reading your reviews. So your feedback really helps me feel like this is an engaging exercise. Otherwise, I just feel like I'm talking into empty internet space. So your review really helps light me up and also helps me reach more audience. So I would appreciate one if you're willing. And please use the link below to Submit any questions or topics that you would like covered. I cannot wait to hear from you and to co-create this journey together. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and embrace the possibilities that are available in this moment right here, right now. Thanks so much. See you next time on Ketamine Connections.